Be'ezat Hashem Naaseh V'Natzliach. I want to welcome you to another session of a parashat Sharone class here in Chabad in Aventura. This week's parashat is parashat Korach. Such interesting plots in the past few weeks between Miriam and the Lashon Hara, between the complainers, the Mitonenim. Last week we had the spies, and here we are now, Korach and Adato, and it just doesn't make sense. It just takes so much it requires so much from us to understand how all this can happen. Not that we can even judge these spiritual giants of Dor HaDe'ah, as they're called. We will never understand. Only if you step into somebody's shoes, you can really understand their decision-making process. If things are actually, if anything that they did was to be judged wrongfully or correctly. But at the end of the day, it's hard to understand these stories. Tonight, the story of Korach, I thought it would be very interesting if we remove the veil, if we remove the curtains of the pshat level of the story and go a little bit deeper to the GILGULIM. Anytime we dabble in the reincarnations or the tikkunim that a soul has made, has always opened up our eyes and showed us that things actually do make sense in the end. This lesson, we've touched on this in previous years, a little bit here, a little bit there. Tonight is a very, very thorough lesson from the beginning till the end. Literally from the beginning of time till the coming of Mashiach, the story of Korach and his soul. The story of Korach is going to make sense in a way that maybe you've never seen it before. And the reason why we're going to spend tonight's story time. You literally you don't have to think too hard. Just sit back and listen to a story. It's a life story. It's an autobiography. But nevertheless, the reason for this lesson is because it's a big chizuk. This is a big, big emunah lesson. That throughout our life we always ask, how can there be a Korach? How can there be complainers in the desert? How can it be all these things? And we never understand until the truth is revealed to us. So tonight is not only going to reveal to us the story of Korach, but also use it as a tool to understand, trust in God. He knows what He's doing. He's running the show. Hakol Tova. Kol derachmana avid letava avid. You can't see it because Hashem is not going to privy you to all the details of how He runs the world. It's upon us to have faith and trust that what He does is always the best and the best thing for us. Tonight will just be a classic example of once you know the story of Korach, apply it to every other part in your life to say, you know what? When I learned the story of Korach in depth, it gave me a chizuk to understand that whatever is happening in my life, all day, every day, doesn't matter when and who's involved, it's the right thing and it makes sense. Even if it doesn't make sense to me, it makes sense in the eyes of God. Before we get started, I'd like to give some honorable mentions to the following people. Be'ezat Hashem, tonight's class, Yitbarach Shemo Shel Baruch Hu, be in honor of Jacqueline Bat Alia and Tova Shindel Bat Alta. Also, this class will be to the Ilu Nishmat of David ben Zohara, Yaniv ben Rina, Michel ben Zohara, Aviv ben Vivi, Abraham Yoshua ben Sultana, Simon ben Alia, Mazal bat Luna, Meir ben Rebecca, Sultan bat Frecha, Yitzchak ben Sevilla, Nisim ben Meir, Rachel bat Bela, Yaakov ben Tamar, Susan bat Shava, Yehuda ben Aharon, Brendel bat Meirdov, Shalom ben Zohara, Chana bat Chava, Crunchy bat Brendel. Also, this class will be to the Refuah Shelema of Amram ben Zohara, Lavi Rafael ben Olga, Daniel bat Mazal, Yaakov ben Dina, Gabriel ben Mashiach, Keren Chava bat Dona, Nir ben Yehudit, Chaya Yael Shoshana bat Chana Fredo, Heleni Orna bat Chana. Also, this should be to the easy pregnancy and easy delivery of Enat bat Larissa and Sarah Miriam bat Heina Rivka. and Zivug Hagun Mishorish Nishmatam to Inbal Bat Jacqueline, Guy Ben Dina, Sheina Henshi Bat Lea Gittel, Eli Ben Shula, Yehudit Bat Sarah, Tamar Adina Bat Devorah Mirol, and Yosef Ben Sarah. Also, this class will lead to the bracha ve'hatzlacha of Avraham ben Daniel, Yosef ben Daniel, Avraham ben Va'alot Chaya, Yehuda Lev ben Tova Shindel, Desiree and Avia, Yael Teppenbergen family, Joseph Dornbush and family, Judah Mendel, Dov Shmuel and Pesi Penina and family, and Shalom ben Chaya Carmela. Also, Baruch Hashem, tonight we have some additional sponsors. Hashem varech et Yehudit ben Shabbat. Hashem varech ota and her children. And Be'ezrat Hashem we have Besorot Tovot, Seata Deshmai B'chol Maseh Yadea. And I'll take this opportunity to invite everybody for Sunday night. It's going to be Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, as we've been doing it for close to 2 years now. You're all welcome to the Rosh Chodesh class at Yehudit ben Shabbat's home. Shashem Ba'echota V'Sameachota. Always be on the side of the giving, learning Torah, supporting Torah. May your children grow in Torah. And Be'ezrat Hashem B'sorot Tovot B'imhera. Also, bracha v'hatzlacha to Yehoshua ben Naomi, and to the Hatzlacha of Am Yisrael by Anonymous. Also, we have our good friend of the class, Rivka Bat Esther Naomi, who's sponsoring tonight's class, to the Ilun Nishmat of all the ones that needed, and Bracha B'Hatzlacha to all the ones that needed. Very nice of Achdut Am Yisrael over here that we have. And also, we have Judah Mendel sponsoring again for the second time, as he's sponsoring tonight's class to an early happy birthday to Joseph Dornbush. And also, before I forget, Refuah Shelema to Shaul Yosef Ben Garaz. Okay, let's get started. Let's start learning Torah Leshem Shamayim Lebesimcha. That's the best way to do it. Korach. Let's start with some background to the story. I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with it. I don't want to go into every detail. I'm going to take it for granted that you guys already are familiar with the story. I'm just going to do some broad strokes of some of the things that we need to pick up in order to understand the rest of our lesson today. The parasha begins with Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kehat ben Levi v'Datam v'Aviram b'nei Eliyav v'on ben Peled b'nei Reuven. So here we are. We have Korach. They give us his lineage of his father, his grandfather, all the way to from the house of Levi. We got the two individuals, Datan v'Aviram, who are the sons of Eliyav, and On ben Peled, that were from the tribe of Reuven. As it says in Rashi, Oy la Rasha, Oy le Shcheno. Woe to the one that has bad neighbors. They're going to drag you into problems. So here we see that all these guys that went in cahoots with Korach were actually the ones that were stationed around him. Vayakumu lifnei Moshe, when they were stationed in the desert. Vayakumu lifnei Moshe, ואנשים מבני ישראל 50 ו200 נשיאי עדה, קריאי מועד, אנשי שם, and above and beyond Korach, Datan v'Aviram, and On ben Peled, there was an additional 250 princes, נשיאי עדה, heads, the leaders of the tribes. אנשי מועד, נשיאי עדה, קריאי מועד, אנשי שם, people of prominent. Their name was famous all over. These were people that had a very high status in society. And they gathered around Moshe and Aaron, and they told them, Rav lachem, it's too much what you've taken for yourself, Moshe and Aaron. Moshe being the leader, Aaron being the Kohen Gadol. Ki kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim. Everybody's holy. You're not so special. You think you're Moshe Rabbeinu and Aharon HaKohen because you're holy? You got the job? We're all holy. Uvetocham Hashem. Because we know that God is residing in the camp. So if God resides in the camp, that means that we're all holy, just like you. Otherwise, God would never reside amongst us. What are you elevating yourself above everybody else? So obviously, this is them be fighting words, right? They're picking a fight with Moshe. I want to read a few Rashis that give us a lot of insight into what's going on over here. Rashi in Pasuk Gimel and Rashi in Pasuk Dalet. Rav lachem. Their claim is, this is their claim. This is what Korach and his cohorts are claiming. Rav lachem. It's too much for you. Harbe yoter midah lakachtem atzmechem gdula. You took too much for yourselves. Meaning Moshe being the leader and Aaron being Kohen Gadol, but he has additional claims. It goes deeper than that. Rashi is going to let us know. Well, maybe I'll share it over here. Mara Korach lachlok al Moshe. What bothered him so much? What triggered Korach? Rashi reveals to us in Pasuk Bet. Nitkana. He was jealous. Al nisiyoto shel Itzafan ben Uziel. He was jealous from his cousin. His cousin's name is Elitzafan, who was the son of Uziel. Uziel is their uncle. Sheminuhu Moshe nasi al bnei Kehat al pi hadibur. That he was the leader of the Kehat family, and this was al pi hadibur. This was by the instruction of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe didn't decide this on his own accord. Amar Korach, Achi Abba Arba'ayu. Achi Abba Arba'ayu. He says, Korach thinks to himself, my father had 4 brothers. Sheneimah Ubnei Kehat, as it says the names of all the brothers. Amram HaBechor Natlu Shne Banav Gedula. So Amram was the firstborn. His 2 sons took the biggest positions possible. Echad Melech ve'echad Kohen Gadol. One is the king, that's Moshe, and the other one is the big kahuna, the Kohen Gadol, that's Aaron. Mi ra'ui litol et hashniya. Who's next in line? Lo ani? Shouldn't I be next according to the lineage, age, the order of the brothers being born? Shani ben Yitzhar, shu sheni la'Amram. I am the son of Yitzhar, who is the second in line to Amram. Amram is, since Yitzhar is the second one in, Korach is saying, naturally, I should be next. He went to the youngest brother, Uziel, and he took the son of Uziel. How did you come up with this decision? How did you come up with this appointment? He says, now I'm going to go against him. I'm going to create a conflict. I'm going to cancel out his actions. I'm going to cancel out what he carried out. And that's when he took he went and he started to campaign in the camp, and he got himself all these foreign people, Datan, Aviram, On Ben Pelet, 250 Anshim, Ibnei Israel, Nesiei Edah, Krei Moed, Anshe Shem. Furthermore, we said, so now he comes and he gives them the claim, Umadua titnaseu, im lakachta malchut, lo echa levarel achicha keuna. If you're going to be the king, then your brother shouldn't have been the Kohen. You took such a lofty position, pass it on to the next in line. Not everything within your family. And he continues to say, this is Korach speaking, Lo atem levadchem shamatem besinai anochi Hashem Elokecha. With all due respect, you're not the only ones that heard the voice of God. We all heard Hashem say, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Kol ha'edah shamu. It brings from Midrash Tanchuma. Moshe Rabbeinu's response or reaction was very small pasuk Daled, Vayishma Moshe Vayipol al panav. Moshe heard and he fell on his face. Fell on his face meaning he was extremely disappointed, and now he's got to do damage control, and now he's going to deal with the problem. After dealing with the problem, he's going to have to go to Hashem, ask for forgiveness for what they did. You know how it goes. They mess up. He gets them out of the mess. He has to negotiate with God. He fell. Why? Lama nafal al panav. Moshe is strong. Moshe deals with problems. You know why? Because it's the fourth time. And you remember last week's class, what did we say? This is the fourth time in what time span?
A week.
1 week! Oh my God, 1 week! We had Miriam, Meraglim, we had the Mitonenim, and we had Korach and Vadato. So imagine, it was a very hectic week in the camp. So Moshe Rabbeinu hit a breaking point. Vayipol apanav. Why did Moshe fall on his face? Mipnei machloket. Because of the conflict. Shekvar ze be'adan sichon revi'i. It's the fourth time that they messed up. Chatu ba'egel. They already sinned with the golden calf. Bamitonenim. They started to complain. Remember, where's the fish and the cucumbers from Egypt? Who's going to give us meat? Remember that? Bameraglim. In the spies, that was last week. And this week we have the conflict of Korach. Rashi gives a nice mashal over here. It's good to know it. It's always good to learn Rashis. These are classic Rashis. It's good to know them. Rashi gives us a mashal. Midrash Tanchuma brings it, and he brings it by way of Midrash Tanchuma. Mashal leben melech shesarach al aviv. Ufies alav ohavo pam b'shtayim b'shalosh. Says there was a king, it was a son of a king, and he kept messing up. And every time he would mess up, he would go to the king's best friend, and he tells him, listen, you know my father for a very long time, get me out of this mess. If anybody can get me out of the mess, it's you, because you're my father since childhood, and you guys have a relationship. You're the only one that can get me, can speak to the king the way you speak to him, and you're the only one that can get me out of the mess. So he did it once, twice, 3 times. The king's friend got his son out of trouble 3 times. When he messed up the 4th time, he says, he became weak. When he came to him the 4th time, he goes, listen, I can't do this anymore. Because if I keep going, when the time comes when I really need him, he's not going to do anything for me. I'm sorry, I can't help you on the 4th time. It's too much. 3 strikes and you're out. The 4th one, I can't do. When I read this, a famous Pirkei Avot came to mind. Not the famous machloket shel Korach and what is a machloket lo l'shem shamayim is the machloket of Korach. What is machloket l'shem shamayim Hillel bet Shammai? Not that one. As a matter of fact, Hashgacha Pratit, last night as I'm learning Pirkei Avot with my son, which we've been learning maybe 3-4 years. Last night, this one. What's the chances? But it's good. It's Hashem giving us a message that the learning is good. Pirkei Avot, the 4th chapter, the 21st Mishnah says, Rabbi Eliezer HaKafar Omer, Hakin'ah והתאווה והכבוד מוציאים את האדם מן העולם. We have a famous Mishnah that says jealousy, desires, and chasing honor take a person out of this world. Meaning, somebody who is busy in his life, constantly being jealous of other people, eventually he's going to die. From what? From the jealousy. The jealousy is going to kill him, whether it's actions that he does, or the stress that comes along with being, jealous of another person. It's going to take him out. Ta'ava, physical desires. A person, sometimes people eat so much until they die. Some people do. They indulge so much in physical pleasures until to the point that they pass away from it. Whether it's drug abuse, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's some people there's some people that take their own life because they can't fulfill their physical desires anymore. Vakavod, somebody who chases honor, and we know that the way that it works with honor, it's so interesting. Honor, the more you chase it, the more it runs away from you. Honor goes after somebody who humbles himself. So anybody who's trying to get elevated in society, get the kavod from his wife or from his children or from people in his shul or people within society, the more you look for it, the more you're not going to get it. The more you humble yourself, it said, the more you lower yourself, Hashem will uplift you. Hashem will lift you up and give you the kavod. So we see that there's three things that take a person out from this motziin ta'adam min ha'olam. They take a person out of this world, and I saw a commentary that said motziin min ha'olam hazeh u'min ha'olam haba. These are three things that a person he's able to. It takes him out of the physical world that we're in, and also refrains him from getting into the next world. What are they? Jealousy, desires, and chasing honor. So when I thought about those three things, I'm saying, that's everything we've been discussing in the past few weeks. Because when we spoke about akinah, jealousy, well, that's this week's parashat, Korach. He's jealous of Moshe. He's jealous of Aharon. So there's the kin'ah, that's Korach. The te'ava, the physical desires, that was 2 weeks ago, the mitonenim, remember? They wanted the food, they wanted the meat. And we said, the netivot shalom, the beautiful netivot shalom. Why did they ask specifically for meat? Because meat arouses physical desires like an aphrodisiac. It brings up the desire to want to get physical. And because they wanted to get physical, in order to what? Because they were so upset that they no longer have the ability to partake in arayot. So they said, let's bring that desire back of when you eat meat and you want to have arayot. So who's that? Who wants the physical desires? Those were the mitonenim, the complainers, the asafsuf, if you recall. And the ones that chase the honor, who is that? That's last week, the miraglim. They are the heads of the tribes. They are right now the big shots in the desert. If they go into the land of Israel, what are they? Regular Joes, regular citizens. You're just like everybody else. And so they didn't want to lose their status in society. They said, no, it's better we stay in the desert as opposed to go and be a regular person in the land of Israel. So there it is. Jealousy is Korach. Physical desires is the mitonenim, the asafsuf. And honor is the spice from last week. When you go just on a very basic level of understanding the story of Korach, Pshat, the Pshat level of Korach va'adato chalku al Moshe va'Aaron. We have Korach and his cohorts that go against Moshe and Aharon. Why? Korach kina b'Moshe va'amar shekol dvarav hem ma'atzmo u'mezakeh et mishpachto. What was his claim? Korach says, I'm going to discredit Moshe. As it says, u'mevatel hareni cholek alav u'mevatel et devarav. He's going to go and discredit Moshe. He's going to say, what? This is not what God said. Moshe is making things up. And now how do I know that? Because every time he comes to us and somebody else benefits from the new law. And who benefits? Oh, the first thing is Aaron. He becomes Kohen Gadol. And then after that, all his children get the job, Kohanim. Oh, and what did they get? The 24 gifts that the Kohanim get. And every time that they come up with a Maaser Sheni, Truma, this, that, it's always going to the Kohanim, not going to the Leviim. Because keep in mind, the Kohanim started with Aharon and his children. Everybody else was Leviim. So the Leviim did get a few things later on when they went into the land of Israel. But right now, every time Moshe comes down with a new rule that has to do with the Mishkan, who benefits? Aharon and his children, Aharon and his children, Aharon and his children. So he started to discredit Aharon, to say Moshe, by saying that all the rules that are making is from him, and he's constantly taking care of his family. At the end of the day, the story ends with Moshe prompting every single one to say, if you want to take the job, hand in an application. Go ahead, give me your resume. What was the resume? A staff. Every single one had to bring a staff, and they had to bring it in. And they had to put it in the Mishkan. And also, one of the things that they were all like vying for is to bring the Ketoret offering, every single one. Now keep in mind, there can only be one. There can only be one Kohen Gadol that brings in the incense offering, the Ketoret. So even think about their mindset. There's 250 people working in unison together against Moshe, 250 people handing in resumes, and only one job position. Meaning, they were so clouded in their thinking that 249 people are going to die. Would you ever apply for a job? Or would you ever put yourself in danger where you have a chance of 1 out of 250? Those are very bad statistics. You don't want to take those chances. The odds are very bad, 1 out of 250. Nevertheless, we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose Aharon's staff. It was, besides the fact that God chose Moshe and Aharon, he had to prove it again through the staff of Aharon blooming with giving forth leaves and budding. And later on, Korach and his cohorts and all that belonged to him, including the children, all got swallowed up by the ground. The ground opened up and swallowed Korach v'adato. And as they're going down, Korach's children were saying, "Oh my God, Abba was wrong." And as he was saying that Abba was wrong, it was hirurei tshuva. It's as if they were contemplating doing teshuvah, saying, we should have done something else, and all of a sudden a piece of land comes out from Gehenom. They're like in the lowest level of Gehenom, and a piece of land comes out, and it saves them, and they don't go down. And they've been there this entire time on this piece, meaning they didn't go all the way down, they didn't die. Bnei Korach lo metu. But everybody else got burnt. And there's a whole story over there of the way that they got burnt and the way that they got swallowed into the ground. But that was the more or less the broad strokes of the stories. Tonight, I want to take you behind the scenes. Because in order to really, really understand what's happening here with Korach, we have to go back. All the way back. We have to go back all the way to Bereshit. So the beginning of time. All the way to Cain and Hevel. Cain and Hevel. And we're going to go on a very, very long journey. Story time. Tonight, the entire time is just going to be a story of Cain and Hevel and what happened there in that first murder in history and the tikkun that was necessary for those two neshamot from the beginning of time, and to see how through various Gilgulim they achieved their tikkun, and we're actually going to go all the way to the end of time, all the way to the time of Mashiach, and it's all connected to Korach. And a few other characters. But we'll say Korach because in parashat Korach. So we know Cain harag et Hevel. Cain killed Hevel. Right? So here we are. We have Adam and Chava. They have two boys, Cain and Hevel. As a matter of fact, it says, Shtayim alu lamita v'yardu shiva. It says that when Adam and Chava procreated, they were two, but then when she gave birth, they became 7. How? There was Cain and Hevel, and back in the days, every time a boy was born, he had a girl that was born with him also, because that was his wife. At that time, before the world had people, and before we got the Torah and we got all the rules of who you're allowed to marry and you're not allowed to marry, every single person when he was born with a twin girl that eventually turned out to be, eventually was their wife. So when Cain and Hevel were born, they had 3 girls. So there's one for Cain and one for Hevel. What do you do with the extra one? So they started to have a fight. There's many reasons to their fight. There's many reasons for their fights. We're going to list them one by one, but eventually we'll see that every single reason for their quarrel eventually needed to be rectified. There had to be a tikkun for it. Let's start.
That makes 5, not 7.
Why?
When
As the
Cain.
parents.
And the parents are 2.
Oh, I thought it was 7 siblings. Oh,
No, it says Shtayim alu lamita, 2 got into the bed, and 7 came down, because at that time they gave birth right away. It wasn't 9 months. That's before the curse. The curse after is the curse where the woman has to give like labor and be 9 months, right? But before that, it happened very fast. So it says that, right after they procreated, they had they had 2 boys and 3 girls. But let's begin. Let's start with the Zohar. קין התגלגל במצרי שהרג משה, ביתרו ובקורח. Cain that killed Hevel, he came back 3 times. Cain came back as the Egyptian that Moshe killed. He came back as Yitro, and he came back as Korach. Let's first understand what were the sins of Cain. What did he do? Cain הביא קורבן להשם מנחה מפרי אדמה. In the beginning of time, Cain had an idea of, let me bring an offering to God, and he brought from the fruits of the land. However, he brought the worst. Hagarua sheba adama. He brought flax, like like the worst out of all the things that the ground produces. Flax, pishtan, is the worst. Hashem lo sha'at minchato. Hashem did not accept that offering. ובעקבות כך קין כופר במציאותו השם יתברך ואומר לית דין ולית דיין ולית עלה מחרן ולית למיתן אגר תב לצדיקיה ולית מפרע מן רשעיה. So because Hashem didn't accept his offering, Cain immediately becomes a heretic, becomes a kofir, and he says En din b'shamayim ve'en dayan. He says there's no judge. First of all, there's no judgment in this world. There's no judge in this world. There's no God that judges a person on his actions. And there's no such thing as olam haba. There's no such thing as the next world. Ve'en sachar tov letzadikim or onish l'shaim. And there's no such thing as reward for the righteous or punishment for the wicked. And heaven, his brother tells him, of course, yesh din, yesh dayan, yesh olam haba, yesh sachar ve'yesh onesh. He tells him, no, the complete opposite. So that was the first thing that they had a conflict on, right? 2 difference of opinions, right? So, what happens when you have a difference of opinion? It's either you agree to disagree, or you murder each other. That's what happened. The minute there was a conflict, the first conflict in history, the first disagreement in the book of Bereshit between 2 brothers, kind of heaven, they didn't agree. It eventually led to murder. An additional part to their disagreement, to their conflict, this is what I mentioned before, but I'll repeat it again. They were born with twins, and they became their wives. With Hevel, there was an additional twin. And this was one of the things that they fought about, as it's brought in Bereshit Rabbah in the Midrash. אמר רבי הונא, תאומה יתרה נולדה עם הבל. זה אומר, אני נוטלה שאני בכור, וזה אומר, אני נוטלה שנולדה עימי. So, Cain says, this extra twin that was born, I'm going to take her because I'm the firstborn. Firstborns have extra rights, I'm going to take her. Hevel says, no, she belongs to me. She was born with me. So they continue to quarrel. V'kaim Cain al Hevel v'yargonu. Cain gets up and he kills Hevel because of the difference of opinions or because of the extra twin. There's going to be a few more reasons coming up. As a matter of fact, in the 10 Commandments it says, "Velo tachmod eshet re'echa," meaning don't covet your friend's wife. The word tachmod is gematria te'uma. The word tachmod is the same numerical value, 452, of the word twin in Hebrew. Where's that from? It's from the original. That 10 commandments, lo tachmod eshet re'echa, that already had to do with the first couple in history. Not the first couple, the first time that a person coveted another man's wife. Furthermore, לאחר שקין רוצח את הבל ונוטל תאומתו יתרה, הוא נוטל אף את צונו. He says Cain, not only did he murder Hevel, and not only did he take the extra twin, but when Hevel was on the floor dead, what did he do? He took all his sheep, all his flock. Why? Because when Hevel brought an offering, his offering did get accepted. Because what did he bring? He brought the best. He brought the wool, and he brought also an animal offering. And Hashem accepted that. So we see over here that when he died, he took all the animals that belonged to him. By the way, did Hevel do anything wrong? Meaning, if they had an argument, but you have to deserve to die, right? Hashem could have also made it that, okay, they have an argument. Hevel ran away. Hevel protected himself. Hevel fought back. By the way, Chazal tell us that Hevel was winning the fight. He was actually on top of him. And Cain tells him, no, please, let me go. Hevel says, okay, I'll let you go. And when he let him go, what did he do? He took a rock and he smashed it over his head. And after that, it says that he actually punctured him. He didn't know where the neshama was coming out from, so he kept stabbing him with a tool. Then eventually it was like Swiss cheese, Hevel. With like hole after hole after hole. And he didn't know what to do. Until actually a bird came and started to cover Hevel with the sand, and that's how we know that we have to first of all bury a person, and also from there we also get that we have to cover the blood after you shecht, by the way. So we see over here that Hevel had to deserve death. At the end of the day, what did he do? Hashem could have saved him, or what was it so terrible that he that he got to die in such a manner? So it says, כאשר הבל הקריב את קורבנו, אמנם הוא הביא מבכורות צאנו ומחלביהם, even though that Hevel brought the best of the best as an offering, אבל פגם שהציץ בשכינה. He actually looked at God's holy presence. What happens when you look at God? ולא יראה איש את פניי ויחיה. You can't look at God and live. So he was the first one to look at God's presence, and because of that he had to die. So Hevel, even though that we think he was so innocent, he was in a way, because all he did was bring a korban. But between him and God, he created something that wasn't allowed. You can't look at Hashem. So because when you look at Hashem, you are warranted to die. That's why Hevel had to die. Shetzitz b'shchina.
When did he see the Shekhinah? When he was giving the korban?
When he was giving the korban, the fire that came to consume it over there. Hevel had an additional sin, by the way. Cain והבל היו מריבים ביניהם על חלוקת העולם. As a matter of fact, Cain and Hevel, so you can imagine, you have Adam and Chava, they just had their 2 kids, and you have Cain and Hevel. What do 2 brothers now? Again, it's the whole world. There's 7 people on planet Earth. What could you possibly talk about your brother? You 2 brothers talking. What are they talking about? What's mine? What's yours? How are we splitting up this world? So it says in Bereshit Rabbah, Amru bo v'nechalek et ha'olam. It says, this world belongs to us. Let's split the world. Echad natal karkaot, which is Cain. Cain took all the land. Ve'echad natal et ha'metaltelin, v'zeh Hevel. And Hevel took all the movables. Meaning, anything that's land belongs to Cain. Anything that's movable, a Ferrari, a Rolex, diamonds, anything that's a metalteli, things that are movable, that belong to Hevel. That was their agreement. So Cain tells Hevel, "Hakarka she'ta omed alea sheli hi, brach ba'avir." He tells him, Cain tells Hevel, the land that you're standing on belongs to me. Start to fly. Don't stand on the ground belongs to me. Look what's going on over here. So Hevel tells Cain, Habgadim shel guvcha shelihem. He says, oh yeah? So give me your clothes. What you're wearing belongs to me. Because again, mentality, movable items, right? So another reason why they fought, and Cain came and killed Hevel. So we see Hevel chata begezel. He says that Hevel sinned by stealing. That he stood on the ground that belonged to his brother. Kind of harsh, kind of extreme, but they bring it over here in Bereshit Rabbah. So let's just summarize. One thing was the extra twin. The other one, they say, I get the karka, you get the metaltalin. And the third thing was what? That they fought about? What did they fight about?
Oh, the
split of the land, the extra twin, and the philosophy. Yesh dayan, yesh din veyesh dayan. Or no. Is there God? Is there no God? Is there olam haba? Is there no olam haba? Is there reward and punishment? Is there no reward and punishment? So they had a philosophy, then they had about the land and the metaltalin, and then they had the extra twin. Now begins the tikkun. Now that we see everything that they had to deal with in the beginning, let's see how these two souls become rectified. Because Cain killed Hevel, because you have to understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the great equalizer. He's never going to leave one person have an advantage over the other one. If you took out from here and took over there, you're going to have to take from here and put it back over there. Hashem is the great equalizer. You killed him in this world, he's going to have to kill you in the next world. You robbed from him here, he's going to rob from you there. Hashem is the great equalizer. He's never going to let anybody go away without equalizing the situation. He had to make it even. So the tikkun begins, the rectification. Which rectification? Well, Cain killed his brother. He's got to make good on that. Hevel also has a couple of things that he has to fix. So let's see. So we said that Cain is going to be, his tikkun is going to be in the Egyptian, the Mitzri that Moshe killed. That's going to be the first time that we see Cain come back. We're going to see Cain come back in Yitro, and we're going to see Cain come back in Korach. Okay? So we're going to travel through those three storylines. What about Moshe? What about Hevel? Hevel is all in Moshe. Because Moshe also came back in 3 Gilgulim. It's in his name. Moshe is Moshe, Shet, and Hevel. Moshe's neshama was in Hevel, that got killed by Cain. And then the next son that was born to Adam, what's his name? Shet. That was also Moshe's neshama over there. So Moshe is Moshe, Shet, Hevel. So in order to rectify the soul of Hevel, we're going to see Moshe interact with the Mitzri, with Cain and Yitro. I'm sorry, Mitzri, Yitro, and Korach. Let's begin.
Were they all Jews?
Who?
All the people you're talking about now. When was the first Jew created? Like
Abraham is the first Jew.
Who was?
Abraham.
Abraham.
Abraham is the first Jew.
Before that, there were no Jews?
No.
No, I never knew that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Moshe Gadal ויוצא לראות בסבלות עמו. Remember, Moshe was living in the lap of luxury in Paro's castle, and finally he grew up, and he starts to go outside into Paro's kingdom in Egypt, and all of a sudden, what does he see? His brothers suffering. He sees his family, the people the nation that he comes from, slaves and being tormented and tortured. Vayar ish Mitzri makeh ish ivri ma'achiv. And what does he see? He sees an Egyptian hitting who? A Jew. He couldn't tolerate it. He couldn't bear to see that an Egyptian is hitting a Jew. Vayifen ko veko vayar ki en ish. He looked right, he looked left, he saw that there was no man. ויח את המצרי ויטמנהו בחול. He hit the Egyptian and he buried him in the ground. That is a first grade level understanding of that situation. In reality, what really happened over there, by way of Chazal, Shemot Rabbah says, Vayifen ko veko, when he turned right and he turned left, what did he see? He says, Ra'a ma asa lo babayit u'ma asa lo basadeh. He says he saw what this Egyptian did to this Jew in the house and what he did to him in the field. Do you remember the story of this Egyptian? Remember Shulamit bat Divri? What happened? So, Shulamit bat Divri was Yatzanit. She was very talkative. She would stand outside of her house and she would say, "Hi, how are you? How's the weather today? How are the kids?" Talking to everybody. The Egyptian looked at her and says, "Ooh, Shulamit." Now he knows that she's also the wife of who? Of one of the slaves. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, he knocks on their door and he says, "Get up, get up, get up. Today we have extra work." And of course, as a slave, you have to listen to your slave master or whoever the officer was at that time. And he goes to the field. He says today he has to start working at 3 o'clock in the morning instead of 5 o'clock in the morning. While he went to the field, the Egyptian went into the house and he had relations with Shulamit bat Divri, which we know that later on the son that came out from that union was the Megadef, the one that cursed God in the desert. Remember that story? Okay. So Moshe saw what he did to this Jew in the house, and then he saw what he did to him in the field, which is what? He's hitting him. So he went and he had relations with his wife, and then he's hitting him on the field. Moshe couldn't tolerate it. Vayfen ko veko. He looked to the left and he looked to the right. He saw what he did for him in the house. He said what he's doing to the field. He couldn't tolerate it, and he hit him. ראה משה ממצרי רשע זה, בא על אשתו של העברי בביתו, שולמית בת דברי, ואף התעלל בו אחר כך בשדה בעבודה קשה. He gave him even extra more work on that day. So we see that Hevel was Moshe, and Cain comes back in this מצרי. וחלק הנפש של קין מתגלגלת בגו במצרי שהרג משה. So we know that our soul has 5 parts to it. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Naranchi. Chaya Yechida. Chaya Yechida, we don't deal with it over here. We deal with it on certain times of the year, more later on, but the 3 parts of the Neshama that we deal with mostly are the 3 parts, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, called Naran. So Cain had to rectify his 3 parts of his neshama. The rectification of nefesh was the Mitzri. What Moshe did right now when he killed the Mitzri, he rectified Cain's nefesh. He still has to go 2 more rounds, ruach and neshama. Now, how does this? What was the tikkun that was done over here? Okay, Moshe killed the Egyptian that was the reincarnation of Cain. Chazak u'baruch. But how does it fix what happened in Bereshit? So look what it says. Cain harag et Hevel b'shel ha'teuma yetera v'natal et eshet achiv. Cain did what? He wanted to take his brother's wife. The Mitzri wanted to take the wife of a Jew. וכעת משה הורג את המצרי. Moshe now kills him. על שנטל אישה שאינה שלו. Because he took a wife that didn't belong to you. First rectification, you took a wife that didn't belong to you. Now I'm going to kill you. Why? Because you killed me before. So I'm going to kill you now. You killed me for my wife, now I kill you for the wife that you took. מידה כנגד מידה. משה מתקן את המצרי. By the way, there's a pasuk in Bereshit that says, "Shofech dam ha'adam, ve'adam damo yishafech." There's a pasuk that says, when somebody spills blood, his own blood will be spilled. Meaning that when a person murders somebody, the person that he murdered will come back in the next life and murder him. The pasuk says, "Shofech dam adam, be'adam damo yishapech." That same person that he killed will come back in the next life and kill him also. And that's what happened here with Moshe. Cain killed Hevel, so Hevel slash Moshe comes back and kills Cain. That's how it works. Again, we're starting to reveal what happens behind the scenes, right? Because you could open up the newspaper and say, murder! Oh, he's a murderer! And we might think that it's bad. And we might think that it's not right. And we might think all the negative things that come along with murder. But if you just remove the screen, you see, but he murdered him in the previous life. Hashem is just a great equalizer. Oh, murder makes sense. We don't want to say that, right? We never want to say that murder makes sense. Chas v'shalom. But there's a cheshbon over here. There's a calculation that God makes. Hashem has to even things out. Even though when things are very rough and very harsh to understand, if Hashem removes the curtain, He'll make you see that everything has a purpose and is just. And it's just. It's tzedek. Furthermore, remember that when Cain killed Hevel, how did he bury him? He covered him with sand. What did Moshe do? Covered him with sand. Same thing. You notice that what's happening before that we saw that is, well, okay, he hit him, he knocked him out, he put him in he was on the ground, he covered him with sand. Why do we need to know these details? The Torah could have done without even telling us. Could have just said, and the Egyptian died. Why do we need to know all these gory details? Or these minute details? In order for us to connect the dots, to see that there's a tikkun here of Cain in heaven. Let's move on to Yitro. It says, ביום שנוספה ביתרו נפשו, one second, בו ביום שנוספה ביתרו נפשו המתוקנת של קין, יתרו מתגייר. He says that Yitro was living a life as Kohen Midian, and one day, Yitro, after visiting with the Jewish people and visiting with Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, what? Baruch Hashem! Wow! How great is God! How great is the redemption and the Exodus story and Moshe Rabbeinu! Oh my God! Even though that I'm the high priest of Avodah Zarah, I'm converting. The day that he decided to convert, Cain's neshama came inside of him. And now, Yitro, after the conversion, gets the neshama of Cain. And you have to understand that there's, when it comes to neshama, yesh chelek tov v'chelek ra. There's two parts to this neshama. There's a good part and there's a bad part, or a negative part. The good part of Cain's neshama is the part that got added to Yitro after his conversion. So now we're dealing with Cain's good side. The rectification of Cain's good side. Let's see. When we come to Yitro, we're going to see three things happen. The Yitro is going to rectify the fact that he murdered Hevel. He's going to rectify that he took the extra twin. He's going to rectify the fact that he stole the flock from his brother. And actually, an additional thing, four things. And he's also going to rectify the fact that he was a heretic and he was against the Kadosh Baruch Hu and didn't believe that there's a judge and that there's Olam Haba and that there's punishment and reward in this world. So while Cain is going to, the neshama of Cain is going to be inside Yitro, he's going to rectify these four things. Let's begin. You might not know this, but Yitro was one of the advisors of Paro. Paro had three advisors. He had Bilam, he had Yitro, and he had Iyov. And when the time came for them to enslave the Jewish people, Paro went to his advisors. What should I do with the Jewish people? So each one gave a certain advice. Bilam said, enslave them, kill them. He's the one that gave the advice about throw the v'tikol ben layot tishlichu. Then we have Iyov, who didn't say nothing, and then we have Yitro that ran away. So Moshe and Yitro in bunny ears, Cain and Hevel, before Yitro converted, already had an interaction in the castle of Pharaoh. Where? Remember the story of Moshe Rabbeinu when he was a little baby, and he was sitting on Pharaoh's lap, and Pharaoh was doing kuchi kuchi, oh what a cute Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu grabs, as a baby, grabs the crown and puts it on his head, and all the Khartumim, all the wow, bad omen, bad sign that somebody he's going to take over your kingdom, right? So you know who stood up for Moshe? Yitro. He said, no, it's just a baby. He doesn't know anything. I'll show you. Put the crown on one side and put a bowl of hot charcoals, and you'll see that he's a baby. He doesn't know which is which. And it says that Moshe Rabbeinu went for the crown again. And Malach Gabriel moved his hand and he grabbed the charcoal, the hot charcoal, and he came to put it into his mouth, and that's how he got his lisp. He burnt his lisp, and that's how he became Kvad Peh V'Kvad Lashon. So who's the one that told Paro to test Moshe and not to kill him on the spot? Yitro. So we see Yitro Gvar Etzil Ba'avar et Moshe Mitato. We see that Cain saved Hevel from dying. Yitro saved Moshe from dying with this plot with the charcoals. Letaken sheratzcho begilgul hakodem. This was the first time that he came to rectify that he killed him in a previous Gilgul. When Yitro came to the camp, remember what they did? They did a seudah, right? They said a seudah todayan. They said Moshe. He came into the camp, and Moshe Rabbeinu was serving everybody. And who was sitting over there? Aharon and the Shivim Zekenim, and they were hosting Yitro because it was Moshe's father-in-law. Not only that, he was the Kohen Gadol Shel Avodah Zarah. He's the head priest of idolatry, and he's coming over here and he's converting. They give him a lot of kavod. And Yitro, I'm sorry, that's later on. Yitro ma'achil Moshe lechem shu mipri adama. So when I'm sorry, when Yitro, Moshe married Yitro's daughter Tzipporah. So when he first met Tzipporah, he told her, when he gave them the water by the well. So he told her, where's the guy that helped you out? Go bring him. And when they brought Moshe, what did Yitro do? He fed him. He gave him food. Where does bread come from? The ground. The ground belongs to who? Cain. So Cain comes and says, no. Remember what I told you can't touch and doesn't belong to you? Now I'm going to take from the ground and I'm going to give you. In a previous, he told them, fly in the air, don't touch my ground. Now what is he doing? He's giving him bread that comes from the ground. Not only that, Moshe was a sheep herder, and he was herding Yitro's sheep. After he was with him for a period of time, Yitro gave all his flocks to Moshe Rabbeinu. And what did this rectify? Remember, he took the flock of Hevel. Now Yitro, Hevel, is giving him back his flock as Yitro. Furthermore, the extra twin. The extra twin comes back in Tzipporah. The Gilgul of the extra twin is Moshe's wife Tzipora. And in the Midrash says, Yafa banashim hayta Tzipora. Hayta yafa betwar. That Tzipora was extremely beautiful. As it says, Hevel veyofi isha. Right? From Mishle. Hevel veyofi. Sheker achen. Okay, let me give you the whole pasuk. Sheker achen vehevel hayofi isha yirat Hashem hitit halal. So from here they're taking just the words vehevel hayofi isha to show that what? That hevel and the yofi, the beautiful wife that he had that belonged to Hevel, was the isha that they fought about. So Yitro is right now, Yitro, Cain, is going to rectify what he did in the previous life, which is what? Umashiv et hateoma yetera. Now he says, I fought with you for that extra twin, now I give it to you. Here, marry her. Take Tzipora, she's his daughter. But nevertheless, he's telling her, here, take my daughter and marry her. That's the extra twin reincarnated over there. Furthermore, we remember that when Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to go to Egypt, he took his wife, he took his kids, and he was on the way to Egypt. And on the way there, Aharon meets him and he tells him, what are you doing? He says, I'm coming to Egypt with my family. He says, we have enough slaves. What are you adding more? You're bringing your family to be slaves in Egypt? Send her back to her father. When we come out of Egypt, they'll come and they'll meet you. And that's what he did. Moshe went into Egypt by himself. And Tzipora and his two children, Gershom and Eliezer, went back to Yitro. After Yetziat Mitzrayim, remember parashat Yitro, what it says, Vayishma Yitro. What did Yitro hear about? He heard about the Milchemet Amalek, and he heard about Yetziat Mitzrayim. He heard, because keep in mind, Yitro was the advisor to Paro. You beat Paro? Paro let go of his free slave nation? He couldn't believe it. And then he heard about Amalek, one of the strongest armies in the world, came to fight the weak Israelis, the weak Jews that just came out of Egypt. They were just slaves. They're all maybe scrawny. They don't even have any meat on them. They're all been, they've been working hard labor for 84 years. What happens? He says, I have to see this for myself. Tzipora, grab the kids. We're going to go visit Moshe. So when he comes to visit Moshe, what does it say? Vayikach Yitro choten Moshe et Tzipora eshet Moshe achar shiluchea ואת שני בניה, ויבוא איתו חותן משה ובניו ואשתו, אל משה, אל המדבר, אשר חונה שם הר אלוקים. So, Yitro shows up with Tzipora, with the children, and they come to meet Moshe in the desert. And what does he tell them? Ani chotencha Yitro. I'm your father-in-law, Yitro. I am here. Ba elecha ve'ishtecha ve'shne banecha ima. I'm here with your wife and with your two children. So over here, we're going to see an incredible tikkun. When he says, Ani chotencha Yitro, Rashi Tevot Achi. Ani, Aleph, the first letter of the word. Ani, Aleph. Chotencha, Chet. Yitro, Yud. He says, I'm your father-in-law, I'm here. But deep down inside, I'm your brother. Cain and Hevel, we were brothers. Right? Then he comes to say, then he says, and what is he doing over here? Again, he took away the wife. Now he says here, I'm giving it back to you. Remember, it says that the bloods, if you I didn't mention that earlier on, but it says that the bloods of your brother Hevel are screaming from the ground. The blood is screaming from the ground. Why? The whole world, again, a third of the world was going to come out from Hevel, because you got three men. You got Adam, Cain, and Hevel at that time. When Hevel, let's just say we won't count Adam for a second. Cain and Hevel are the ones supposed to populate the world. 50% of the world just died on that moment. So all the people, all the neshamot that were supposed to come out of them, are screaming on the ground, we lost our chance to live. We lost our chance to live. So he took away his children. Comes Yitro, who's kind, and he says, here's your wife, and here's your children. He gives them back his children. He does the tikkun over the fact that he didn't have the children. Yeah.
Can we go back a little bit? How old was Moshe when he had, that he took his hand, he took his hand and moved it to the charcoal?
He was a child, the baby.
Okay. And then, how old when he told him, I'll give you my daughter to be a wife, Tzipporah?
Probably 70 or 60.
So how many years passed? 7 years. How old was Paro? I mean, not Paro. And he told.
How old was Yitro?
When he told him, I'll give you Tzipporah, my daughter.
I don't know.
Because he knows him from he was a baby.
Yeah.
7 years later.
Yeah, I mean, back in the days, they lived hundreds of years.
Right, but 70 years later, he gave his daughter to his wife.
Must have been old. He must have been old. There's a book called there's a book that has all the people's dates and of lives. I'll look it up. There's a book. I forgot what it's called. What is it called? Whatever. I'll try to get
Moshe
it.
was 7 years old when he met Tzipporah. 70 years old when he met Tzipporah.
Maybe even 60. Maybe 60 because he left Egypt when he was around 20. He was a king of Midian for 40 years, and after he left Midian, he was with Yitro for 20 years, and at the age of 80, he went to Mitzrayim to redeem the Jewish people.
Because Canaan went, he was also reincarnated into Korach.
We'll get to Korach.
Right, so Yitro had died by the time Korach leaves.
No, they didn't have. Because
because you have to.
right. So basically, what that means is that the neshama is in a person until the tikkun is done, and it goes. And then the next tikkun happens with another individual. Okay? Something interesting that I read, I can't believe this. When I read it, I'm going to share it with you. Did you know? Yalkut David brings this by way of the Zohar. And if you want to look at it, it's in... Kuf Pei Bet, Midrash Talpiot is there as well. It's brought by the way of the Zohar. Ready for this? Batia, the daughter of Paro, and Tzipporah, the daughter of Yitro, were twin sisters. Were twin sisters. ונולדו עם משה, והן אחיותיו, and they're his sisters. פרעה ויתרו אימצו אותן כאוספיות מן השוק מחמת יופיין. And Paro adopted Batia, and Yitro adopted Tzipporah, and he picked them up from the market because they were so beautiful. They said, I'll adopt him, ותהיה להם לבת, so they can be a daughter. I don't even know what to do with this piece of information. I don't even know. But I just want to tell you, it's incredible that Batia and Tzipporah, the Zohar says, are sisters, twin sisters. We're going to bring back Batia and Tzipporah in a second.
That means they have the same age.
Correct.
So Batia was much older than Moshe because she picked him up and he was a baby.
Correct.
So Tzipporah was older than Moshe.
Again, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with this piece of information because if we try to plug it into everything that we have, there's so many, it's like Swiss cheese. I don't know, but I had to share it. I have to share it with you. It's brought by the way of the Zohar, but it was such a juicy piece. I don't know what to do with it. But I'm sure, Be'ezat Hashem, with God willing, we'll be able to connect the dots in the coming years.
There's no book that talks about these things?
Yeah, this one. Guys, I get it. Questions, it's juicy stuff. But let's get through it because I don't want to keep you here till 10:30.
Why not?
Okay. So when Yitro finally comes to the desert, what happens? When Yitro comes to the desert, what happens? Moshe starts to tell him the greatness of God. And what does Yitro do? It says, Ata yadati ki gadol Hashem mikol Elokim. Yitro, who worshipped every type of avodah zarah, now proclaims that now I know there's no one greater than God. I've tried them all. I've tried all the avodah zarah. There's nothing greater than God. And by saying that, by just saying that, what is he rectifying? And Din Van Dayan. Remember what he said in the beginning as Cain? There's no judge and there's no judgment. There's no olam haba. There's no punishment. There's no reward. Now he comes back as Yitro and he says, "No, ata yadati ki gadol Hashem mikol Elohim." God is greater than all the other ones, than all the other idolatry that he was worshiping. And here he rectified what he said in the previous Gilgul. Furthermore, ata yadati. What's ata? Ata means now. Ata yadati, meaning now I know. In the previous Gilgul, I didn't know. Furthermore, he says, and because of that, what did Yitro do? He converted. So not only that now he knows, but he took it upon himself that Hashem is his God. ומתגייר בפועל, מכאן מתקן מה שאמר, ולית עולם אחרן, בכפייתו בעולם הבא, שאין עולם הבא, למה הוא יתגייר? He says, and here he rectified when he said there's no olam haba. If there's no olam haba, what are you converting? Stay in your way. Okay, there's a God and there's idolatry. I choose idolatry even though there's God. He says, no, he converted. Why? In order to merit olam haba also. So here, now he rectified by saying that also there is no olam haba. Furthermore, remember he says, ve'en din, there's no judgment, right? There's no law. There's no law in this world. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. And there's no reward and there's no punishment. What was the advice that Yitro gave? What's the advice that Yitro gave to Moshe? He says, מציע לו למנות דיינים, שרי אלפים, שרי מאות, שרי עשרה. Remember he told שרי חמישים. There's no judging, there's no judge, there's no law. And Yitro comes and tells them, this is how you put the law. This is how you put things into play. Another tikkun. Another tikkun. When Cain killed Hevel, Cain was very worried that now someone's going to kill him. He got paranoid. He says, that's it. People know that I'm a murderer. Now they're going to want to kill me. So Kadosh Baruch Hu told him, don't worry. I'm going to give you two things. He gave him a letter that was on his forehead. It was the letter Vav. He says, when people are going to see this letter on you, they're not going to touch you. He also gave him a dog for protection. But also, the reason why he gave him a dog is because of Hakarat HaTov. A dog is a man's best friend. He's very appreciative of what his master does for him. He says, you don't have Hakarat HaTov. You don't appreciate the life. You don't appreciate what Hashem has given you. A brother, the world, this and that. He says, go learn from a dog how to appreciate the world. And he gave him the letter Vav on his head in order for him to not to be attacked by any of the people that were alive at that time. And what was the promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him? Hashem maftiach lo shekol ha'orgo shivatam yukam. Meaning, anybody who's going to kill Cain, he's going to be what do you call it when you will be avenged. Will be avenged. And the word yukam, what's the word yukam? Shivatayim yukam, right? It says the Cain shivatayim yukam. What's yukam? The word yukam is Yitro, Cain, Korach. I'm sorry. Yitro is Cain, Korach, Mitzri. Yitro, Cain, Mitzri. So we see over here that all the Gilgulim of Cain were promised to Cain at the time when he gave him the protection. Now, do you know how many names Yitro had? Yitro had 7 names. You know how many names Moshe had? Moshe had 7 names also. Look at the names of Yitro. Because it says, Shivatayim Yukam Kain. What's Shivatayim Yukam Kain? There's going to be a time where Kain is going to have 7 names. When is Kain going to have 7 names? Kain is going to have 7 names when he's Yitro. Yitro had 7 names. As he's called Yeter, Yitro, Chovev, Reuel, Hevel, Putiel, Vekeni. The original Kenny. Yitro was the original Kenny. So we have Yeter, Yitro, Chovev, Reuel, Hevel, Putiel, Keni. Moshe, what's his name? Moshe's name is Moshe, Yered, Avigdor, Haver, Avi Socho, Yekutiel, Avi Zanuach. Those are the names of Yitro and Moshe. Yitro originally was called Yeter, without the Vav. It was called Yeter. שרצה ליטול את כל היתר. Why is it called Yeter? Yeter means extra, superfluous, something above and beyond, extra. So why is it called Yeter? To hint to us that in a previous life, when he was Kain, he wanted the extra. He wanted all the extra things, like the twin. Ben shelo u ben shel achiv. He wanted what's his. He wanted what it was his brother's. Because remember, he took the wife, he took the flock, he took the metaltalin. Velachan tavat te'uma yetera, and that's why he also took the extra twin. However, after he rectified Cain, what was his name? Yitro. He got the vav back. Remember the vav that Hashem gave him for protection? That's how it became Yitro. Yitro originally was Yeter. After he did the tikkun, he was called Yitro. Why? Lirmoz shedai lo bitrono shelo dafka. Now he's okay with his share. Yitro, that vav says that he's totally okay with what he has. Remember we said Hevel sinned by looking at the Shekhinah. Hevel is Moshe. How did Moshe rectify looking at the Shekhinah when he was Hevel? Unbelievable stuff over here. Vayikra elav Elokim mitoch hasneh. Remember the burning bush? What happened over there? He didn't want to look. Remember? Vayester Moshe panav ki yareh mehabit el Elokim. Moshe, when there was a burning bush, he didn't want to look away. Why? Because the last time he looked in the fire and the offering of the korbanot when he was Hevel, he saw the Shekhinah and he got the punishment of death. So when he saw the burning bush, when he saw the snare, he turned away. He doesn't want to see it. Why? Tikkun of Hevel. Sometimes we see these things years and years and years and years. We learn of the burning bush. We don't even know why Moshe turned away. Furthermore, Moshe מתקן את אשר חטא בגלגול הקודם כשהביט אל השכינה, וכעת מסתיר פניו מאלוקים, ובזכות זה זוכה לתמונת השם יביט. Meaning, אף הפעם בהיתר. What happened? Remember, who actually got to see God face to face? Moshe. Now what happened? When he was Hevel, he did it, and he got punished for it. When he came back as Moshe, he turned away from the burning bush and he rectified. And then Hashem says, but you can see me. But this time, beheter. This time with permission.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Something that's a little bit different. We know that one of the worst sins, Al-Tirtzah. And then all of a sudden, Cain kills his brother Hevel. And God gave him some type of reward. He said, don't worry. I'm going to protect you. Even God, of course, knows that he killed his brother. And Cain lied to God. He asked him, where is your... How does it work if you look at a little bit different angle where we learn the worst sin is to kill? One of the worst, one. Correct. And then all of a sudden, a guy kills and God says, don't worry, God Almighty, can you elaborate?
At the end of the class. I have an answer for you, but it's too long and it's going to take us off.
Sorry, not to go off to a different but I just can't stop thinking about it. So I heard that Moshe Rabbeinu, at some point, Noach reincarnated
Also,
into
yes.
Moshe. So does that mean Noach was also Hevel?
No.
At some point? No.
No,
So
there was a different tikkun with Noach
Okay.
and Moshe.
All right, just was wondering.
So if I read to you here, you know what? Here, I'll just go to the index in the back. I'll just go to Moshe. You ready for this list?
Wow.
Look all the tikkunim that were done through Moshe. Ready? Just so you understand that we're only touching a tip of the iceberg. Moshe was a nitzotz of Gid'on, Hevel, Noach, Shem, Shet, Arizal, Hillel, Mordechai, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Hamnuna Saba, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Akiva, Rashbi, Yeruvael, Menashe, Ibu Shel Yuval. In other words, you want to know where Moshe's soul traveled?
Wow.
You got time? Hundreds and hundreds of pages on it. I just literally just took, remember, we started the journey with Korach. We're trying to figure out Korach. And I'm just going to give you a couple of bonuses along the way. But we're just trying to make the story of Korach.
And he's not done. He's
Yeah?
coming back
And after this, I'm not taking any more questions.
Just the name of the book that you're looking at.
Mishnayot, Mishnat HaGilgulim. It's a very famous book. Mishnat HaGilgulim. Very, very good job they did over here. Very short, very concise, and to the point. Okay. Now, remember that the nefesh of Cain was fixed with the Egyptian. The neshama of Cain got fixed with Yitro. Now we have the ruach. Remember, we said neshama has three. Now what's the rectification for the third part of Cain's neshama, which is called ruach? Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kol niyeh b'chol.
Amen.
So he said that the ruach had tov and ra. It had a good part and a bad part to it. Korach got the bad side. Remember, Yitro got the good, and he was able to rectify four things in a good way. Korach got the bad part of the neshama of Cain, and he also has to do a tikkun. Let's say if he's successful or not. Korach, as we said, had jealousy of the kehuna that usually is the reward or the role of the firstborn. And why would Korach have jealousy of the kehuna, which is the role that a firstborn gets it? Because Cain was a bechor. Cain was the firstborn. So because Cain was the firstborn, Korach, that was the Gilgul of Cain, also had a problem that he doesn't get the reward of a firstborn, which is the kehuna. We know that Cain was a heretic. He says, "Let din v'let dayan." There's no judge and there's no law. Korach also kafar b'Torah min hashamayim uvdinoto dvoto shel Moshe. What did Korach say? No. There's no Torah from the heavens. The Torah that we're getting, Moshe made it up. So it's the same claim as Cain. Just like Cain said that there's no Torah, there's no God, there's no punishment, there's no reward. Korach also was a kofir. Korach was also a heretic. Because he said that all the Torah that came down is not from the Shamayim, rather it's the crafty work of Moshe Rabbeinu that he's making all this up. Korach, we said that Moshe rectified the Egyptian by burying him in the ground. Remember? Same was a tikkun. But over here Moshe is going to do the same tikkun again with Korach. Why? Va'adama bolat et Korach. Why was this weird thing of the ground opening up and swallowing? It could have been any other death. But no, it had to be that death. Because Korach is Cain. Cain buried his brother in the ground. Moshe, who's Hevel, is now burying Korach, who's Cain, in the ground as well. By the way, it says שדמי אחיך צועקים מן האדמה. It says that Hevel's blood, meaning his progeny, his gene, his seed, his children, are screaming from the ground. That they have a claim. Oh, Cain, why'd you do that? They said there was screaming from the ground. It says that Korach's children lo metu. Korach's children didn't die. The Midrash says that they did teshuvah on the way down to Sheolah, on the way down to Gehenom, and a piece of land came out, and they stood over there. And there's a story of an Arab nomad that knew how to navigate in the desert, and he knew where that place was, where Korach, where the land opened up. He knew where it was. Why? The Gemara brings this because he says that every Rosh Chodesh, smoke would come out from that hole, and when you get closer to it, you'd hear people say, Moshe emet v'torato emet, Moshe emet v'torato emet, v'anachnu badaim. That's what they would say. They would say that Moshe is true, the Torah is true, and we were the ones that were wrong. We were the liars. Which means what? That Korach's children's voices are also coming from the ground. So just like just like Hevel's children were screaming from the ground in Bereshit, also too over here, Korach's children are screaming from the ground. Just the way he buried him in the ground, that's how all Korach, all his children. Because remember, he got rid of all his children. By him not being able to have children, he got rid of all of them. That's why when you look at the Torah, it's so cruel. It says over there, every single one from the family, even infants, babies, got swallowed in the ground. Why? Because it's the same thing that he did. By him not allowing him to have children, all his children are buried in the ground. Comes the time of Cain paying the price as Korach. The ground opened up and swallowed everybody, including all the children. And just like the bloods were screaming from the ground, Korach's children are screaming from the ground as well. Tikkun. Midah keneged midah. Kol damei achicha tzoakim ela min ha'adama. That's what the Cain happened over there. But with Korach, it says, Cain and Mamakei Eretz v'tzoakim min ha'adama, Moshe emet v'torato emet. There it is. That the exact same thing that happened to Cain and Hevel is the same thing that happened to Moshe and Korach when they were the tikkunim of Cain and Hevel. Over here, I want to stop for 1 second and say that we just took a nice little journey, nice little story. We went all the way to Cain and Hevel, and we saw that from that first murder, how many different lives had to happen in order for the rectification to happen. And all of a sudden, all these weird things that were happening in the Torah, all of a sudden make sense. Because like we said, when you start to learn GILGULIM, it's like you're revealing something. You remove the curtain and you can see what's behind the scenes. And that's what we saw tonight. I want to add just a few more stops. Because even though that we're in parashat Korach, I want to add just a few more stops to the journey. And just like finish it, let's just go all the way to the end. Even though there's a lot, but I'm only going to take 2 more stops with you. One is Shmuel and one is Eliyahu Hanavi. It says, in regards to Korach, why was he so brazen? Why did he feel that he could actually stand up to Moshe Rabbeinu? What gave him that confidence? So we have a pasuk in Tehillim that says, Moshe ve'Aaron bechoanav u'Shmuel bekorei shemo. Moshe ve'Aaron are equivalent. Imagine how great Moshe is, Moshe Rabbeinu. Aharon, the original Kohen Gadol, both of them together are equivalent to Shmuel. Shmuel is the descendant of Korach. Korach says, if Shmuel comes from me, if Shmuel is in my future, remember he did like Moshe Rabbeinu, he looked left, he looked right? He looked into the future, and he saw that from his progeny comes Shmuel, who is equivalent to Moshe Rabbeinu put together. He says, surely what I'm saying is correct. Surely what I'm asking for is correct. Because look what is coming out for me. Look at my great-grandchildren. So it says, Shmuel Hanavi, הוא הטוב של קין, ולא בכורח שהוא הרע של קין. Korach was rectifying the bad part of Cain, and Shmuel Hanavi, who is his great-grandson, was rectifying the good part of Cain. He also had a share in the rectification. It says, actually, what I'll do, I'll use the Imre Noah. They do a very good job over here. Kuf Pei Vav. Okay. Ironically, when you have the Haftarah, by the way, our sages tell us that when you read the parasha, how do you know what's the most important part of the parasha? And sometimes parashah talk about so many different things. What's the most important message in the parasha? Well, if you want to know, look at the Haftarah. Whatever the Haftarah deals with, that's the most important part of the parasha. Like, for example, when we talk about, in the parasha that talks about Sotah and Nazir, you see that the Haftarah is with Shimshon. So you see that the most important part of that parasha is what? The Nazir. Interesting that this week's parasha, parashat Korach, what is the Haftarah? The Haftarah is Shmuel. The Haftarah deals with Shmuel, who is the tikkun of Cain, the good part of Cain. Meaning the most important part of this week's parasha is the tikkun of Cain. Because Korach is also supposed to be the tikkun of Cain. But Korach didn't do it. Korach failed in his mission. He should have just listened to Moshe Rabbeinu. He should have done the same thing that Yitro did. He should have done the rectification the right way. But since he didn't, his great-grandson had to come, Shmuel, and to fix the part that he didn't. As it says in Shabbat, you're going to see, if you read the Haftarah, what does it talk about? It talks about Shmuel, that he was constantly promoting the kingdom of Shaul. As it says, Lechu v'nelcha ha'gilgal v'nchadesh sham ha'melucha. He was like, really, he was a huge proponent of the kingdom. Shmuel ishtadeh be'oter ba'ad ha'malchut shel David HaMelech. He was constantly promoting or making tremendous efforts in order to erect the kingdom of David HaMelech. Which is the complete opposite of jealousy. Somebody who's jealous doesn't help anybody. They're like, they're stewing in their blood that somebody else has a higher position than them. You have over here Shaul, that he's saying, no, we want to, let's put the kingdom of David HaMelech up, which is the complete opposite of Kin'ah. And here is what he rectified in the portion of the jealousy that Korach had and the jealousy that Cain had. Because the whole thing stemmed from jealousy. The beginning part of this entire thing was the jealousy. As a matter of fact, Shmuel, do you know the name of Shmuel's father? Shmuel's father's name is Elkanah. What's Elkanah? El-Kin'ah. Or not Al-Kin'ah. In other words, Al-Kin'ah, not to be jealous. His whole essence was to be the son of the one that is not jealous. His entire essence, his entire role in this world is to rid himself of this bad character trait of jealousy. And that's why when you look at Shaul, the way he acted, now you can say, you know why you act like this, and you know why he said like this, and you know why his father's name is like this? Because of Cain. He was doing a tikkun on Cain. There's a beautiful part of Yaakov, and it's worth it. It's worth it. There's another part where we see Cain in heaven with Yaakov, who's heaven, Lavan, his father-in-law, who is Cain, and Rachel and Leah were the extra twin, the Gilgul of the extra twin. And we see that Lavan, who's Cain, he took the extra twin. Now he has to give it back. And not only that, he wants to give it back 2 times. So what does Lavan give? Yaakov. He gives her et Rachel and Leah. Lavan did a tikkun with Yaakov. Yaakov, Hevel. Lavan, Cain. Lavan tells Yaakov, don't take only 1, take 2. Why? In a previous Gilgul, I took 1. I'm rectifying right now.
You have to take 2.
And not only that, pay attention. The word Bilha. What do you see in the word Bilha? In the name Bilha? Hevel. The word in the name of Bilha, you have the name Hevel. The letters are there. Bilha, hiya te'oma yetera. She was the extra twin. Bilha was the extra twin that belonged to Hevel. That's why in her name is the word Hevel.
Lavan ben Betuel?
Yes. That's it from here. I'll just take you to...
It's also for Adam, right? Because Adam had the 2 wives, the one he despised and the one that he loved. Right? And the same
oh
time
yes,
the Gilgul comes back.
That's something else. That's Chava 1 and Chava 2. It's a big chida. It's a beautiful one. Since we're talking about Yaakov, I just want to say that one of the things, we're talking about jealousy. One of the things that we do every Friday night is we bless our children. Yesimcha Elohim Kefraim V'Chimnashe. We're instructed to bless our children to be like Ephraim, like Menashe. And everybody says, why don't we bless them to be like Avraham? Let my child be like Moshe Rabbeinu. Let my child be like Shlomo HaMelech. Why do we say Ephraim and Menashe? The reason why we bless our children to be like Ephraim and Menashe is because when Yaakov Avinu blessed Ephraim and Menashe, he put the right hand on the younger one and the left hand on the older one. And it's wrong because the Bechor needs to get the right hand. Yet, he left it like that, and it doesn't say anywhere that they had a problem with it, that the younger one that the older one was jealous because the younger one got the beracha. And we don't see anywhere that there were actually any sort of conflict between them. As a matter of fact, if you look through history, Cain, the first brothers in history, Cain killed Hevel. Okay, the second brothers in history, we have Ishmael and Yitzhak. Ishmael tried to kill Yitzhak and the whole thing over there. Second brothers in history, you have Yaakov and Esav. And Esav tried to kill Yaakov. If you look at the 12 tribes, we see that the brothers wanted to kill Yosef. The next time that we see brothers getting along is who? Ephraim and Moshe. So first brothers that were in peace. And then after that was Moshe and Aaron, the greatest 2 brothers in history. So we see over here since we mentioned Yaakov, I wanted to mention that the reason why we bless our children is Simcha Elokim Kefraim Chem Menashe, because there's no jealousy between those brothers. Lastly, and with this I'll conclude, Eliyahu Navi. Eliyahu Navi, in a few weeks we're going to see his first appearance in this world, which is Pinchas. Pinchas hu Eliyahu Navi. However, Pinchas was also the Gilgul of Cain. And as it says, ויאמר השם אל קין, אהב אל אחיך, ויאמר לא ידעתי, השומר אחי אנוכי. Remember that when after he killed him, Hashem has the conversation with him. He asks him, where is your brother? Am I my brother's keeper? The famous line from Cain. But if you take the Rashi Tevot, the first letters of Achicha, Vayomer, Lo, Yadati, Hashomer, Rashi Tevot. Yes, but the Rashi Tevot don't need Achi Anochi. Achicha, Vayomer, Lo, Yadati, Hashomer. If you take those 5 letters, Rashi Tevot, Eliyahu. So we see that he was already there from before. And now we're going to see what was Pinchas' jobs. Lachen harag Pinchas hu Eliyahu leZimri ben Salu. We know in a few weeks from now we're going to learn about Pinchas, that he killed Zimri ben Salu. What did Zimri ben Salu do? Shezana im hamidyanit letaken beze et shezana Kain im tumat hevel. Why did Pinchas kill Zimri ben Salu? Because he went and he had improper relationships with the Midianite. So because he had improper relationships with the Midianite, comes Pinchas / Cain and says, no improper relationships. I already did that when I was Cain. I will not tolerate it. And he kills. Furthermore, it says Pinchas kina Lashem. We know that the word kina, jealousy, is connected to Pinchas. The Pinchas is mekaneh Lashem. As it says over there, bekan'o et kinati. That Pinchas was jealous for the honor of God. And why would Pinchas have this jealousy for the honor of God? Letaken et hakin'ah hakduma shenitkaneh betu'uma yetira shel hevel. Because of the jealousy that he had for the twin, now he's taking that jealousy and he's repurposing it. He's pivoting it. Instead of that jealousy that he had on the extra twin and jealous of his brother, now he's jealous for Hashem. Lastly, kano kaneti. Why is there a double language? You know, anytime in the Torah when there's the same word repeated, kano kineti, why does it have to say the word 2 times? Leramez shakina achrona techaper ala kina rishona. That the kin'ah that he has as Pinchas should atone for the kin'ah that he had when he was Cain. Furthermore, Cain said, Led din veled dayan. Cain, when he was Cain, he says that there's no judge and there's no justice. What did Eliyahu Navi do in Har Carmel? He made, what did Eliyahu make all the people say? Hashem hu Elokim. Hashem hu Elokim. Right? Eliyahu Navi made them all say, are you going to worship the idols or are you going to worship God? And when they said they're going to worship God, and he said, say Hashem hu Elokim. And we know that Elokim is God's name for din. Az yesh din, v'yesh dayan. Lastly, Cain was the first one to spill blood in this world. He was the first murderer in history. And Cain began his rectification. So they say somebody who is prone to somebody who likes blood, right? He can turn it to be a murderer or a killer, or you can channel it to be a shochet or a mohel. I mean, you could, or a surgeon, right? So Cain began his rectification with Nadav and Avihu. Cain also came into the souls of Nadav and Avihu that were Kohanim. Why? Because he was bloodthirsty, but Nadav and Avihu would rectify it with shechting animals, right? Korbanot. However, when it was in Pinchas, he was bloodthirsty, but for Kedusha. Shofech damim bekedusha. That what? He killed somebody for sanctity. Sharag et Zimri ben Salu. And Cain harag et Hevel mishum shitkana bo al toma yetera. Remember that Cain killed Hevel because of the extra twin, and this is also another reason why Nadav and Avihu did not get married. Because of that, he took the extra twin. Now we don't take any wives at all. Also, Eliyahu Navi, because remember, Cain is bloodthirsty. So every time that he gets reincarnated in somebody else, they're going to have an issue with blood. Eliyahu Navi, where does he go to? He goes to every Brit Milah. Because over there, there's always the blood of the Mohel. And this is the last one. Since Cain was the first one to murder and to spill blood in this world, Eliyahu Navi is going to be the last one, she'avi chayim la'olam. The rectification for it is, when we say, Eliyahu Navi is going to come and say, Tchiyat HaMetim, bring the people back from the dead. And that's going to be the ultimate tikkun.
Why does it come to all the, like Pesach?
Thank you.
When you open the door for Eliyahu Navi and...
I just want to, I know you guys want to leave, but I just want to say 2 more minutes. Take a look at one act of jealousy. Cain had one act of jealousy, and look what he had to go through in order to rectify. He spent 2 hours just traveling through his life to see what he had to do in order to fix one act of jealousy. How many tikkunim were needed? How much time was needed to rectify? As we said in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, kin'ah, kavod, and ta'ava, motziim et adam min ha'olam. So understand, when you're dealing with jealousy, when you're dealing with honor, when you're dealing with physical desires, you're in the danger zone. Do not go there. When you are, when you have some sort of a weak point in your character that involves being jealous, that involves being, giving into physical desires, or if you're chasing honor, you know how long it's going to take to rectify all the mistakes that happen. Should you fall into the trap? Stay away from those danger zones. Furthermore, it can cost you this world and the next. When it says me'abedet olamo, it's this world and the next. I said it in the beginning of the class, and I just want to finish off saying it again at the end. Lessons like this help you connect the dots. What we learned today is nowhere close to, when you just read the Pesukim. We went so in depth that you literally are able to connect why those words were said, why those actions were taken, why this happened, why that didn't happen, who are the people that are involved, who are the characters, who are the supporting characters. It's unbelievable how much depth there is to the Torah. These amazing layers that our Torah has, and how they amazingly connect and interlace stories, characters, Torah concepts, and laws. There's nothing in the world like our Torah. There's nothing in the world that is so sweet and is so complicated yet so perfect at the same time. A lesson like this first shows you the sweetness of the Torah. So sweet. So many chidushim today. I mean, literally one after the other after the other. This is like candy. And never forget that Hashem is the great equalizer. You're not going to be able to do wrong to somebody else without paying for the price later, whether it's in this life or in the next. And you have to know that. Everything gets evened out at the end. Justice must be exacted. That's the way Hashem runs the world. In this lifetime or in many, many lifetimes. The only thing is, we're in Ikvita de Mashiach. We're at the end. Who knows if you can come back again? Who knows if you get another Gilgul? So that's why before Eliyahu Navi comes and does the ultimate rectification for Cain, and does the ultimate rectification that no more death, but he's going to bring people back from the dead, you want to make sure that you're making all the right moves and stay away from jealousy, stay away from being like Korach, staying away from being like that Safsuv, stay away from Lashon Hara. All these weeks are just, it's layers and layers and layers of what not to do. in the past few weeks. Sometimes the lessons are do this. Sometimes the lessons are don't do that. Hashem barech atkhem, sameach atkhem, and looking forward to seeing you guys on Thursday for the Tefillah 101 class, which is going to be about Amen. And then on Sunday, the Rosh Chodesh class, which is going to be the holiday of the future. It's in Tammuz. Hopefully you guys will find out when you come.